So today's term, one of my favorites, generalization. Now, this is one of these sneaky terms that we think, oh, well, I know what a generalization is, right? Because we use this term in our lives all the time. Somebody's making a sweeping generalization about something, except that when we're talking about autism and autism treatment, that's not what generalization means. So let's take a look at what our actual definition of generalization is. The occurrence of relevant behavior under different non-training conditions, for example, across subjects, settings, people, behaviors, and/or time, without the scheduling of the same events in those conditions. What does that mean? I don't know. Years later, I have no idea what that means. This is why we do the jargon of the day. Because if I looked this up, if I heard an expert saying, well, we're striving for generalizations, it's the single most important thing in what we're doing with your child is striving for generalization. And I went, oh, I better know what that means. And I looked this up. I would want to slap someone. I don't know how you feel, but that's how I feel. All right, so let's take this down a notch and see what our working definition is. Can you tell I'm feeling a little better? Generalization, being able to apply what has been learned in new ways or situations that were never taught. Okay, let's take this for a test drive, shall we? So I'm a former teacher, and all of us who are parents are teachers. That's our first line of defense, right? We're teachers. So if you want to teach something to somebody, you don't want to have it be that they just learn it in this rote way and that it never becomes their own. Whenever I think of generalization, I think of My Fair Lady, and I think of that moment or Pygmalion, because they're both the same thing, one with music and one without, that moment where they say, by George, I think she's got it. That's the thing that we want to get to with every lesson that we teach as any kind of a teacher, right? If you're teaching children multiplication and you start out by teaching them single-digit multiplication, right? And you do it in a rote way, and they're doing it over and over and over again, right? But eventually, you want them to be able to understand the principles of multiplication, because what are you going to do? Sit there and add one number every day and sit children down and teach them, okay, memorize what 1,422 times 1,508 is? No. Eventually, they need to learn the principles of multiplication so that they can apply it to any multiplication problem that they get. When they really understand, and it's not a memorization thing anymore, when they understand the principles of it and can multiply any two numbers no matter how many digits because they understand the principles, that's generalization. Now, how does this apply to our kids with autism? Every single thing that we teach them, when we begin to teach them, just like multiplication, we're going to teach it in a way that looks a lot like memorization and rote, just doing it over and over and over again. But that's not the goal. The goal is to get to them to a place where they can apply everything that we've taught them in any situation. This can be toilet training. And believe me, when people toilet train and don't take generalization into account, you're going to have a problem, because all of a sudden you're going to have a child who can go potty in the downstairs bathroom at home, but when you're out at Target, they can't go to the bathroom. Or they're at school and they can't go to the bathroom because they weren't taught how to generalize the skills that they learned in that downstairs bathroom for every single toilet. But think about it for every single lesson that you could potentially teach anyone. I always bring up driving, that when my mother taught me how to drive, she didn't want me just to be able to drive her little Dodge Charger, right? She wanted me to be able to drive any car, any rental car, a rental truck, a new car that I bought. She wanted me to be able to generalize my driving skills to any car. And she wanted me to be able to generalize my safety skills in a car to any highway, any road, any single place that I could be driving, whether it be on snow or ice, right? She couldn't possibly teach me how to drive on every single road, but she taught me in a way so that I would know how to drive anywhere. That's what we want to do with good quality ABA. Every single lesson, you're teaching colors, then you're going to make sure that you teach red to a child so that they understand if it's two-dimensional, if it's three-dimensional. They understand if it's light red, if it's dark red, if it's cherry red, if it's brick red, right? They have to have an understanding of what red is. That's what generalization is. Now, here's the key for me for generalization. A good quality ABA provider will tell you that's the number one thing that they're going for is for generalization. And if that's the truth, then they will plan every single lesson that they do before they start teaching the first lesson. They will know what they are doing, what their plan for generalization is. So one of the things that I tell parents when they say to me, how do I know a good quality ABA provider from a bad quality ABA provider, is to say to that ABA provider, to pick a lesson, anything that they say, we'll teach your child how to do X, right? Say to them, okay, how will you plan for generalization with that? If they start shuffling through papers or looking for something or saying, well, I'll get back to you with that, that's not the ABA provider that you want to be with. If they say to you, oh, we're going to teach your child how to socialize with peers, and you say, how are you going to do that? And they say, well, we're going to start doing X, Y, and Z. And you say, how are you going to generalize that? They should be able to instantly be able to come back with, this is what we're going to do. Because if they've already said, this is what we're going to teach your child, that should already be a part of the plan. It shouldn't be something that they need to go look up a paper. Generalization is the key to the good stuff. We're not just teaching our kids and our young people so that they can memorize things and punch a ticket and do it the way we ask them to do it. We want to give them the skill so they get to the point where we say, by George, I think they've got it. That's generalization.